Now the time came when the Lord was about to take the prophet Elijah up to heaven. So his servant Elisha said to him, "Please let there be a double portion of your spirit on me. You have asked a hard thing. If you see me as I am being taken from you, it shall be so for you. But if you do not see it, it will not be so for you." As they still went on and talked, behold, chariots of fire and horses of fire separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, "My father, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen." And he saw him no more. As an act of mourning, Elisha took hold of his own clothes and tore them into two pieces. This is 2 Kings chapter 2. So Elisha operated mightily in the spirit of the prophet Elijah. One day he called one of his sons of the prophets and said to him, "Tie up your garments, take this flask of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth-Gilead. And when you arrive, look for Jehu, the descendant of King Jehoshaphat." Jehu was the commander of Israel's army. "Go in and have him rise up from among his comrades, and lead him to an inner room. Then take the flask of oil and pour it on his head, and say, 'Thus says the Lord, I anoint you king over Israel.' Then open the door and run away. For it is treasonous to declare someone king while the present king is still alive." So the young man, the servant of the prophet, went to Ramoth-Gilead. And when he came, behold, the comrades of the army were in council. He said, "I have a word for you, O commander." And Jehu said, "To which of us are you talking to?" And he said, "To you, O commander." So he arose and went into the house, and the young man poured oil on his head, saying to him, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, I anoint you king over the people of the Lord. And you shall strike down the house of King Ahab, your master, so that I may have revenge on Jezebel for the blood of my servants, the prophets. For the whole house of Ahab shall perish, and I will cut off from Ahab every male descendant, bond or free, in Israel. The dogs shall eat Jezebel in the territory of Jezreel, and none shall bury her." Then he opened the door and fled. When Jehu came to the rest of the men, they said to him, "Is all well? Why did this mad fellow come to you?" "Thus says the Lord, I anoint you king over Israel," he said. Then in haste every man of them took his garments and put it under him on the bare steps, and they blew the trumpet and proclaimed Jehu king. Thus Jehu, the descendant of Jehoshaphat, the grandson of Nishi, conspired against King Joram, Ahab's son. Now Joram with all Israel had been on guard at Ramoth-Gilead against Ahaziah, king of Assyria. But King Joram had returned to recover in Jezreel for his wounds. Then Jehu mounted and went to Jezreel. Now the watchman was standing on the tower in Jezreel, and he saw the company of Jehu as he came riding, and said, "I see a company." And Joram said, "Take a horseman and send to meet them, and say, 'Do you come in peace?'" So a man on horseback went to meet Jehu and said, "Thus says the king, do you come in peace?" And Jehu said, "What does it have to do with you? Turn around and ride behind us." And the watchman reported, saying, "The messenger reached them, but he's not coming back." Then he sent a second horseman, who came to Jehu and said, "Thus says the king, do you come in peace?" And Jehu answered, "What do you have to do with peace? Turn around and ride behind us." Again the watchman reported, "He reached them, but he's not coming back. The rider is like the riding of Jehu, the son of Nimshi, for he drives his horses furiously." King Joram said, "Make ready." Then Joram, king of Israel, and Ahaziah, king of Judah, set out and went to meet Jehu, and met him at the property of Naboth the Jezreelite, the one whom Queen Jezebel had murdered in order to steal his vineyard. And when King Joram Jehu, he said, "Do you come in peace, Jehu?" He answered, "What peace can there be so long as the whorings and sorceries of your mother Jezebel are so many?" Then Joram turned around and fled, saying to Ahaziah, "Treachery, O Ahaziah!" And Jehu drew his bow with his full strength and shot Joram between the shoulders, so that the arrow pierced his heart. So Jehu killed Jezebel's son. Jehu said to Bidkar, his aide, "Take his body up and throw him on the plot of ground belonging to Naboth the Jezreelite. For remember, when you and I rode side by side behind King Ahab his father, how the Lord made his pronouncements against him, as surely as I saw yesterday the blood of Naboth and the blood of his sons, declares the Lord. I will repay you on this plot of ground." So the Lord's words always come to pass. Now therefore take his body up and throw him on the plot of ground in accordance with the word of the Lord, Jehu said. When Ahaziah the king of Judah saw this, he fled in the direction of Beth-Hagen, and Jehu pursued after him, shot him also. He made it to Megiddo and died there. When Jehu came to Jezebel, Jezebel heard about it. In her pride and arrogance, she painted her eyes with makeup and adorned her head, and looked out of the window. And as Jehu entered the gate, she said,
"Do you come in peace, Zimri, murderer of your master?"
In her arrogance, Jezebel compared Jehu to the former would-be king, Zimri.
Zimri was the king of Israel for a brief moment in time. The army of Israel refused to accept Zimri as a legitimate king and instead elected his comrade Omri as a rival candidate for the throne. Zimri used to be Omri's subordinate in the army. Omri and his army rapidly marching toward Tirzah and besieging the city. Zimri apparently did not expect such a rapid response to his coup. The city fell after a brief siege. Zimri set the royal palace on fire and died in the flames, choosing suicide over surrendering. So Jezebel is saying to Jehu that he's just like Zimri, a counterfeit king who's going to die trying to destroy an heir to the throne. Clearly, in Jezebel's madness, she never thought that anything would happen to her. So basically, Jezebel is calling Jehu a traitor. Jezebel considered herself a god and never thought Jehu would be able to touch her. He lifted up his face to the window and said,
"Who's on my side? Who?"
2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him.
"Throw her out the window!"
So they grabbed hold of Jezebel and threw her out the window she was standing in. Her blood splattered the side of the wall and on the horses, and the horses trampled on her after her body splattered the ground below. Jezebel received the sentence given to criminals, stoning. She was thrown down to the stone pavement below. And in this symbolic gesture, she died in the same way she inflicted on Naboth the Jezreelite when he was stoned to death on the pavement of the ground. Jehu then went inside and ate and drank, and then said to his men,
"See now to this cursed woman, and bury her, for she is a king's daughter."
But when they went to bury her, they found no more of her than a skull, her feet, and the palms of her hands lying on the ground. When they came back and told,
Then the commander Jehu remembered the word of the Lord and said,
"This is the word of the Lord, spoken by the prophet Elijah. In the territory of Jezreel the dogs will eat the flesh of Jezebel. The corpse of Jezebel shall be as dung on the face of the field, in the territory of Jezreel, so that no one can say, 'This is Jezebel,' for there will be nothing left of her to bury."
This is 2 Kings 9.